This is every major death in One Piece explained. Starting with this guy who got shot 152 times and took a cannonball to the face. You see, Whitebeard is the captain of the Whitebeard Pirates and is known as the strongest man in the world. But he would die a gruesome death trying to save his son from the world government. When Whitebeard went to Marineford to save Ace, it led to an all-out war between his pirate fleet and the Marines. Despite his age and being sick, Whitebeard was dominating the fight. But amidst the chaos of the war, Whitebeard was confronted by none other than Blackbeard, who was a member of the Whitebeard Pirates before he betrayed the crew and played a significant role in the capture of Ace. After Ace's death, an enraged Whitebeard turned his wrath towards Blackbeard, and the battle between the two pirates was intense and brutal. But after 152 bullets, 267 sword wounds, and 46 cannonballs, before dying, Whitebeard stood tall and announced to the world that the One Piece is real. Dang, that was a painful death. But if this next guy hadn't died, then One Piece would have never even existed. Gol D. Roger, widely known as the king of the pirates and the only person to have ever found the One Piece, turned himself in because he was terminally ill. Roger knew he didn't have much longer to live, and he wanted to go out on his own terms. Roger's execution was a huge deal. The world government thought executing him would scare pirates straight, but oh boy, were they wrong. Just before his execution, Roger dropped a bombshell. He told the crowd about his treasure, the One Piece hidden at the end of the Grand Line. His last words sparked the great pirate era, daring anyone to become the next king of the pirates. And while that's an important death, this next guy died because of a yo daddy joke. Ace was Luffy's older brother and also the son of the late pirate king Gol D. Roger, but only refers to Whitebeard as his real father. And during the Marineford War, when he was captured, it looked like things might have turned out okay when he was freed during the battle, thanks to Luffy and Mr. 3. But then Admiral Akainu, one of the vice admirals, started trash-talking Whitebeard. Ace, being the loyal and hot-headed guy he was, just couldn't let something like that slide. So Ace faced off against Akainu, but things went south very quickly. Akainu, with his magma powers, created a deadly attack aimed at Luffy. So Ace jumped in to protect his brother and took the full hit, which was fatal. Now that is a loyal family. Speaking of loyal, this woman gave birth 20 months past her due date to save her son. Portcullis D. Rogue was in love with the Pirate King and was going to have his baby, but when he turned himself in, they wanted to make sure that none of his bloodline would survive, including his unborn child. Rogue knew the danger her child would be in if the Marines found out about his existence, so Rogue used her willpower to extend her pregnancy, holding Ace in her womb for an unbelievable 20 months, just to keep him safe from the world government's grasp. This was beyond extraordinary. However, this incredible feat came with a cost. Shortly after Ace was born, Rogue died. Her body couldn't withstand the strain of that extended pregnancy. Her last act was naming her son Gol D. Ace, but he later chose Portcullis as his surname to honor his mother. Such a respectful death. And this next guy respectfully died for the survival of a whole country. Pedro was a warrior of the country Zou, but he would soon sacrifice his life for the new generation. The Straw Hats were in a tight spot on Whole Cake Island after rescuing Sanji and a copy of the Road Poneglyph. But things got super intense when they were trying to escape with Big Mom's crew hot on their heels. Pedro believed strongly in the Straw Hats, especially Luffy, who he saw as the coming of a new dawn. He knew his life was on borrowed time anyway due to previously losing 50 years of his lifespan to Big Mom. So, as the situation got desperate, Pedro saw an opportunity to give the Straw Hats the time they needed to escape. He confronted Perospero, one of Big Mom's strongest children, and ignited the explosives he strapped to his own body. The explosion was massive, taking out Perospero's arm and creating the chaos needed for the Straw Hats to make their escape. Dang, that death was sad. Just like how this next guy sacrificed his own life for a sick child. Corazon was a member of the Doflamingo Pirates, but was actually a double agent for the Marines. When he found out Law only had a couple of months left to live, Corazon took him under his wing by force to get him to a doctor, and after going to the best doctors in the world, no one could cure his disease. Corazon felt defeated. That was until he found out about the Opi Opi no Mi, a devil fruit that could save Law's life, but was also wanted by Doflamingo for its ultimate power. Knowing the risks, Corazon decided to get the fruit and have Law eat it, ensuring his disease would be cured. He did all of this behind Doflamingo's back, fully aware that if they got caught, it would mean his death. Corazon was ultimately discovered by Doflamingo in the end, and in his final moments, Corazon used his devil fruit powers to make sure Law remained hidden and silent, even as Doflamingo and his crew attacked. Corazon was brutally shot by Doflamingo, but he died smiling, knowing he saved Law's life. If that wasn't proof enough, One Piece has some seriously honorable deaths. Like with this woman who died in front of her children because she was poor. Belle-mere found Nami and Nojiko as orphans when they were young and lived happily on Kokoyashi Village until Arlong came along. Arlong and his fishman crew took over Kokoyashi Village, demanding ridiculously high money from everyone as living taxes. If you couldn't pay up, you were as good as dead. Belle-mere was tough as nails, but not exactly rolling in dough. When Arlong's goons came collecting, Belle-mere didn't have enough to cover all three of them. Instead of saving herself and leaving her daughters to a cruel fate, she chose to pay only for Nami and Nojiko, leaving herself out. This act was her way of ensuring her daughter's survival, even if it meant her own death. Arlong, being the heartless villain he is, executed Belle-mere right in front of Nami and Nojiko. Jeez, that was terrible. Now, not all fishmen are terrible, like this fishman who died returning this little girl to her mother. Fisher Tiger, captain of the Sun Pirates, was a hero for fishmen and mermaids because he stood up against discrimination and slavery. He himself was once a slave on Mary Joa, but escaped and freed countless other slaves from all races with him, including Koala, a little girl who was once a slave, and as we now know, a member of the Revolutionary Army. Fisher Tiger decided to help Koala reach her hometown, and at first she was very scarred from when she was a slave. But after spending time with the Sun Pirates, she started to feel better and better. But tragedy struck when the Sun Pirates finally landed on her home island. You see, Fisher Tiger decided to take her there himself, but unfortunately, the people of the islands had already contacted the Marines that they were there. And after he said his goodbye and turned his back, he was ambushed with bullets by the Marines. After the Sun Pirates came to the rescue and barely got out of there alive, Fisher Tiger needed a blood transfusion to survive, but there was a huge problem. Because of the bad blood between humans and fishmen, Tiger refused blood from humans, even though it could have saved his life. Fisher Tiger's decision was more than stubbornness. It was about his principles. He didn't want to owe his life to the race he couldn't fully forgive, even if some humans were good, like Koala. His death was a powerful statement against the cycle of hatred and discrimination. Dang, humans can be evil. But not this guy who was boiled alive in front of his friends. Kozuki Oden was a legendary samurai from Wano. He was the heir to the Wano shogunate and had this dream of opening Wano's borders to the entire world. And he was even a part of Goldie Roger's crew for a bit, which is pretty much the pirate equivalent of being a rock star. But when he returned from his travels, the whole country would be in shambles. It was under the control of Orochi, who was partnered with Kaido, one of the four emperors. Oden aimed to take down Orochi and free Wano, but he got caught in Orochi's web of deception and manipulation. Orochi and Kaido, fearing Oden's power and popularity, decided to execute him in a way that was meant to humiliate him, boiling him alive. But Oden, being the absolute legend he was, struck a deal. He would save his retainers if he could survive in the boiling pot for an hour. In an epic display of strength and love for his followers, Oden held his retainers above his head on a plank while standing in boiling oil. The dude lasted an incredible amount of time, proving his unmatched willpower and dedication to his people and their future. Even though Oden held up his end of the deal, Orochi and Kaido had no intention of playing fair. After Oden's hour was up, instead of releasing him, they just shot him. Oden used his final moments to entrust his dreams to his retainers, urging them to open Wano's borders and protect his family. But this guy died, selling his soul to the world government. Spoiler alert for the Egghead arc. Bartholomew Kuma was originally known for being one of the 7 warlords of the sea, but Kuma wasn't just some random strong pirate, oh no. He had a lot more going on beneath the surface. Before he became the cyborg pacifista, Kuma was actually a big deal in the Revolutionary Army. But here's the thing, Kuma volunteered for the Pacifista project run by the genius Dr. Vegapunk. This project turned Kuma into a cyborg, but the catch was he gradually lost his humanity, memories, and free will, turning him into a weapon for the Marines and the world government. But why would he do something like this? Well, it turns out that Bartholomew Kuma is Jewelry Bonnie's father, and she later discovered her father's memories on Egghead Island and learned that Kuma was not her actual father and agreed to become a cyborg to save her from a deadly disease. That's not even the worst part, though. The Egghead arc also sheds light on Kuma's past, and it turns out that he was once a slave. His blood was tested as soon as he was born, and the world government was alerted that he was a buccaneer, which were despised by the world nobles. Shortly after his birth, Kuma and his parents were taken and turned into slaves. His mother died sometime later because her body could no longer handle the abuse. Kuma's father taught him about Nika, the legendary warrior of liberation. One day his father sang about Nika, and a world noble killed him right in front of Kuma. When the world nobles held their native hunting competition on God Valley, Kuma was one of the slaves chosen for the hunt. Dang, that's just wrong. But not all deaths are people. One of the saddest deaths in One Piece is actually when the Straw Hats lost their very first ship. First off, the Going Merry wasn't just a ship, okay? She was a crew member, given to the Straw Hats by Kaya, their friend from Syrup Village. The Merry was more than just wood and sails. She carried Luffy and his crew through countless adventures, becoming a symbol of their journey and dreams. As epic as these adventures were, they inevitably took a toll on the Merry. Despite Usopp's patch-up jobs, the ship was pretty much living on borrowed time. The damage was beyond repair, the Merry was literally breaking apart, and continuing to sail her would have been dangerous for the crew. This would lead to one of the most emotional battles in the series between Luffy and Usopp on their argument to replace the ship or not. And the farewell to the Going Merry is one of the most tear-jerking moments in One Piece. After escaping Enies Lobby, the crew realized it was time to let her go. The Merry got one last moment of glory by saving the crew from certain death, showing she was more than just a ship. She had a soul. In a surreal and touching scene, the Merry spoke to the crew, thanking them for loving her. The crew gave her a Viking funeral, setting her aflame and letting her rest in the sea. It was a gut-wrenching goodbye, with every crew member and viewer feeling the loss very deeply. Before we get into the last one, make sure to subscribe for more anime content like this. This is one of the most major deaths in One Piece: the extermination of the Ohara Island. Ohara was an island in the West Blue, famous for its giant library and scholars. These folks were super into history, especially studying ancient texts called poneglyphs, which hold secrets about the world's forbidden history, including the mysterious Void Century. The world government was not cool with what the scholars of Ohara were up to. They were scared that the Oharans might uncover and spread the truth about the Void Century, a period of time that the government wants to keep hush-hush at all costs. So they labeled the study of poneglyphs illegal in Ohara as a threat to the entire world. The government decided to go extreme and issued a buster call on Ohara. This is basically a no-holds-barred military strike where a fleet of battleships and vice admirals attack, aiming to completely obliterate everything and everyone on the island. Their goal was to erase Ohara completely, its scholars, all their research, off the map, ensuring the secrets of the Void Century remained secrets. Despite the scholars' best efforts to save their work and the people trying to escape, the buster call was merciless. Ohara was decimated, buildings destroyed, and countless innocent lives lost. The only known survivor was Nico Robin. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, leave a comment down below what you want us to talk about next, and thank you very much for watching.